Hello, YouTube. In today's video, we are back. Dude, I don't even know what to say to this. What am I looking at? Like, both of these thumbnails here. Oh my god. You know it's gonna be a bad video when you see CHUDJACK here. When you see a CHUDJACK. So, the title of today's case that we are going to be watching is The Deranged Mass Killer Who Became a Meme. And I mean, judging from the thumbnail, I guess this dude right here is the originator of like the nothing ever happens meme. Let me see. Let me search this up. Yeah, dude, this guy, nothing ever happens. I see this CHUDJACK everywhere. So to learn now that this face comes from a mass shooter, it's blowing my mind right now. Like, how does this tie together? There's really not much else I can add to this intro. It's all a mystery. There's no context really behind this. So that's all. I'm ready to see this guy become a massive meme.
As a deranged young boy grew up threatening his classmates in clearly violent ways, nobody really wanted anything to do with him, even despite—
Ew! Oh, it's this selfie, isn't it? Okay, yeah, this was the selfie in the thumbnail. Seeing it blown up and bigger like this, I see the face now. The big funny lips, the big nose, the glasses. Why did he take this? Wait, what compelled him to take this selfie and upload it? I'm confused. He did it to himself.
Nobody really wanted anything to do with him. Even despite everything he had done, they still never expected him to become the monster he turned out to be when he set his sights on committing one of the deadliest attacks in US history.
Yeah, wow, I don't remember this case at all. Like, this guy doesn't really look familiar. Like, he said it was one of the biggest attacks ever, but maybe this video will jog my memory, but yeah.
Time and time again, we see a lot of cases where the perpetrator really checks a lot of boxes in hindsight. It could be mental illness, social isolation, interaction with terrible communities, or even all of the above. Most of the time, though, to the people around them, a lot of the warning signs are so spread apart that they go unnoticed or unseen entirely. In this case, though, the mental decline was seen to start happening from a very young age, so let's start at the very beginning.
I mean, yeah, they always start at a young age. I swear to God, all these guys from a young age. I mean, let's just list off some stuff we could expect. Doing animal abuse as a kid, being antisocial, joining Reddit or joining 4chan.
Patrick Wood Crucius was born on July 27th of 1998. Being of German and Italian descent, he was known to have lived in Allen, Texas for the majority of his life. His relationship with his family was rocky as, while growing up, his father was very big on drugs and alcohol. To be specific, he had a good appetite for abusing benzos, antidepressants, Vicodin, and different ADHD drugs. His father got to the point where his behavior was so bad that his wife basically banished him to live upstairs in the home alone, away from the rest of his family until he got it together. Eventually, Patrick's parents came to divorce when he was about 13 years old. By now, he was described as being a lonely kid who mainly stuck to his computer to keep himself occupied.
Called it, pre-watched. We've seen enough of these videos to know the warning signs. From a young age, they display antisocial behavior. Let's see what else I get right.
His struggles weren't only external ones with his family, but also internal. He was, at one point, diagnosed with a schizoaffective disorder. Throughout the majority of his schooling, he was described to have severe lifelong neurological and mental disabilities that caused him to be in some form of special education for the majority of his schooling. Eventually, it came time to move on to high school. After he began to attend Liberty High in Frisco and later Plano Senior High, the other students immediately began to feel that something was off about him. One former classmate said that he mainly sat alone at the back of the bus before and after school. He seemed to hate the popular kids, often going on rants to himself about anyone who played any sports or joined the school band. He was described as standoffish, with it being said that he didn't really interact with anyone beyond the bare minimum. Patrick had a sister, and a good portion of his interactions would come from her and her friends. He would sometimes walk to school with his sister and her friends, but he would usually walk either far ahead or far behind them, keeping to himself and not saying a word to them. One of these friends later said, he wouldn't talk to people. No one really knew him. While in class, he was described as being very strong-minded, almost arrogant, with it being said that he would try to take charge of the classroom despite his usually timid attitude. However, he would only grow angry when other students would refuse to listen to him.
Bro tried to declare himself the leader of the classroom and nobody fucking listened to him. Guys, the teacher is waiting for us to be quiet. And then somebody in the back, like, I can just imagine somebody in the back going like, shut the fuck up.
Students would refuse to listen to him. They wouldn't even work with him on group projects, saying that he was too angry and irritable. To make matters worse, the other kids would often pick on him because he spoke in a strange manner and wore what appeared to be very old hand-me-down clothes. One student said that when he was in English class with Patrick, quote, "Every time I looked up in class, it was someone new speaking negatively to the kid. Patrick, that is dumb, stupid." At one point in high school, Patrick ran away from home. It seems that he couldn't take the home life or school any longer. His family reported him missing to the police. However, they were surprised to see him returning home from his runaway in less than 30 minutes, leading to them calling the police to tell them to forget about the whole thing.
Even his runaway story was lame as fuck. Bro ran away for 30 minutes. He just went to go get lunch. That's all that was. That was a 30-minute lunch break.
Still though, Patrick came to graduate from high school in 2017, moving on to a community college shortly after. Attending Collin College, he decided to move in with his grandparents for a change of pace. His grandparents allowed him to live there as long as he followed some very basic rules, like not leaving the house late at night and not being on his computer all the time. While the first rule would be easy for Patrick, he wasn't going to follow the second one so closely. Around this time, he only grew more invested in the online side of his life. Patrick decided to look for a job, making a LinkedIn profile for himself. However, it's unclear why exactly he made this account, as the profile he chose to write only painted him in the most negative light possible. Saying that he was working as a bagger at a supermarket, he wrote, "I'm not really motivated to do anything more than what's necessary to get by. Working in general sucks."
He had a self-degradation kink. What the hell? Nobody forced him to make a LinkedIn. You make a LinkedIn when you feel like you're ready to elevate yourself, when you've built a bit of a good resume of work history. He made a LinkedIn just to shit on himself.
"I spend about 8 hours every day on the computer, so that counts toward technology experience, I guess." Saying that he was mainly seeing what tech-related jobs might fall into his lap. Under his skills, he wrote, "Nothing really." Trying to get a girlfriend, Patrick began to ask out girls that he had previously gone to school with. However, given the little list that he had written in high school, that wasn't going to work out so well in his favor. He got an account on Instagram and asked out one girl that he went to middle and high school with. She ignored his message, saying that it didn't seem like a good idea. After all, little did he know, she was one of the students who reported him to school staff, saying, "I had to go to the teacher because he would jokingly tell girls he was going to kill them."
Hello? Ben Pasternak? Oh, shit. Making jokes about killing girls.
Patrick made an account on most of the average forms of social media, like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Like a lot of people these days, he mainly used these platforms to spew an endless stream of politics to anyone who would listen. At first, he just seemed like an average Republican, sharing a lot of posts that most people wouldn't find to be anything out of the ordinary. He was political for sure, but at first it was nothing really hateful or controversial. This wouldn't last for too long, though. As Patrick began to see a demographic shift in his hometown, he began to grow hateful. While he was younger, the population in Patrick's hometown was about 83% white. However, now in adulthood, that had shifted. With growing Latin and Asian populations, the percentage of white people fell to about 59%. Patrick, for whatever reason, hated seeing this. When Donald Trump ran for office,
Bro's complaining about more Asian baddies and more Latina baddies? Brother. No, yeah, but on a serious note though, the warning signs just keep coming. He's racist. All of these pathetic ass motherfuckers, they all have the same thing in common. They're all racist. They can't get a girlfriend, so all of a sudden they become hateful of everything. Fucking immigrants and yeah. And he's a Trump supporter. Pick a struggle.
When Donald Trump ran for office in 2016, Patrick became a huge fan pretty quickly. He started going crazy with politics all over social media, posting hashtags like "Build the Wall," "No Sanctuary Cities," "Keep Gitmo Open," and "Ban Syrian Refugees" everywhere he would go. More concerningly, he began to use a photo of Dylan Roof, a man from South Carolina who shot up the Charleston church in a bid to kill as many black people as possible. Admiring killers like Dylan Roof, Patrick wanted to get some gear of his very own. He went out and bought a GP WASR-10 semiotic rifle. Online, he ended up purchasing about 1,000 hollow point bullets after researching what kind of ammunition would be the most devastating during an attack.
I'm gonna repeat myself again. I said this in the previous video. Look how easy it was to get this gun. Pay attention to how the narrator said this. He just bought a gun. It wasn't even complicated.
Even about 1,000 hollow point bullets after researching what kind of ammunition would be the most devastating during an attack. Even his own mother found this to be very concerning. She herself called the police and warned them about her son's gun ownership. She said that due to his age, maturity level, and lack of experience with guns, she was very concerned about his safety. She was transferred to a public safety officer. This officer then asked her if her son had ever threatened to harm anyone else or himself. She said that she didn't believe that he did. So this officer simply provided her with some common information. They told her, due to her son's age and description, he was well within his legal rights to purchase the weapon, and there wasn't a whole lot that she or they could do about it. Before Patrick's mother even gave the police her son's name.
Okay, so the mom did actually pay attention. Okay, so that's a good mom right there. Finally, a good example of a mom that is aware and wanting to monitor her son's behavior. Like, finally.
They told her, due to her son's age and description, he was well within his legal rights to purchase the weapon, and there wasn't a whole lot that she or they could do about it. Before Patrick's mother even gave the police her son's name, the call was concluded. The police later said, "This was not a volatile, explosive, erratic-behaving kid. It's not like alarm bells were going off." All throughout this time, Patrick was getting more and more involved with a website called 8chan. If you haven't heard of it, I'm sure you've at least heard of 4chan. 8chan has been arguably
Called it again. Yet another point I was proven right on. They always go down these rabbit holes. That's something all of these guys have in common. They always go down like the 4chan, 8chan, whatever rabbit holes.
If you haven't heard of it, I'm sure you've at least heard of 4chan. 8chan has been arguably seen as a more extreme version of 4chan. While normally it was also just a bunch of different image boards, each image board was moderated by its own creator with very little oversight from the administrators. This led to a lot of chaos and, eventually, extremism. The site was known for promoting extremist views, celebrating mass killers, and hosting a lot of child material. As a result of all of this controversy, Google itself started to filter 8chan out of its own search engines back in 2015. However, that really didn't do anything to deter the current users from visiting the website. If anything, it only made it into that much more of an echo chamber with few new users actually coming in. Once the Christchurch mosque shooting happened in 2019, the killer, Brenton Tarrant, became a pretty popular figure among certain boards on the site. Image macros were spread that encouraged other users to beat Brenton's high score, i.e.
Dude, it's always the same group of shooters that inspire these other shooters. Literally, just in the previous video, he also idolized this same killer. This dude that in England, he shot up a mosque because of racist ideology. Like, it's all the same. Like, none of these guys are original. They don't have an original thought in their head. They just have boring lives. They can't get women. And for some reason, that just prompts them to become hateful of everything.
Image macros were spread that encouraged other users to beat Brenton's high score, i.e. his kill count. As Patrick got deeper into 8chan, he started browsing the website for hours each day. He enjoyed being in a place where so many other people shared his extreme views. As he became more involved, he came to admire mass killers much more than he ever did before. While he had always wanted to kill people as far back as middle and high school, he was heavily considering carrying out some sort of attack on his own now. He began to research what kind of gear he might want to use in such an attack even more. In addition to the gun he had bought, he also got himself some heat-resistant gloves to use with it, as per the advice of other forum users. Patrick began to spend a lot of time searching for Brenton Tarrant's manifesto, wanting to read what he had to say firsthand. Although he couldn't find it himself, his sister was able to. She sent it to him, not understanding why he wanted it so badly. Once he read it, he was inspired in the worst way possible. Patrick wanted to do the same thing himself. While he didn't really seem to share the same hatred for Muslims, he could see him carrying out an attack on the Hispanic people that he hated so much. He wanted to start off by writing a manifesto of his very own. He titled this manifesto The Inconvenient Truth, a title likely ripped off from the documentary of a similar name about global warming. The manifesto was, more or less, a giant rant about politics. Contrary to what you might think, Patrick criticized both Democrats and Republicans throughout the manifesto, seemingly being more anti-government and anti-corporate in general. While he claims to have felt that way since before Trump's presidency, he admitted that his views had gotten even stronger. The roughly 2,300-word document served as a rough explanation of his views on racial issues, economic issues, and how he felt the country should be governed. The 4-page manifesto was divided into 6 sections, those being about me, political reasons, economic reasons, gear, reactions, and personal reasons and thoughts. In the first section, About Me, Patrick quickly explained that he supported the Christchurch shooter and his manifesto. He explains that he doesn't want the white people of the United States to wind up like the Native Americans did before them, saying that he's here to stop a Hispanic invasion.
Oh, wow. This is the first case where I've seen the shooter specifically has a hatred for the Hispanic community. In a lot of these cases, it's usually they'll be obsessed with black people. I think it's mostly black people, right? All of these races are like mostly obsessed with black people, but this is the first one where it's Hispanic targeted.
Under the next section, Political Reasons, he blames both sides of the political spectrum for allowing corporations within America to run amok. He feared that, due to the rising Hispanic population, the Democratic Party would soon become the only political party in the United States and that no election would matter again.
This would be America if Democrats just like controlled all of America. I'm just being honest, like Republicans do nothing but destroy.
He says that even Republicans are at fault for being so pro-corporation, but acknowledges that some Republicans may not be. He says that, at the least, the Republicans are the lesser of two evils simply because they are anti-immigration. Throughout the next section, Economic Reasons, Patrick explained that immigration is the biggest crisis the US is currently facing. While he says that he acknowledges that migrants perform a lot of unskilled labor, he says that their kids don't, worrying him that this will lead towards more and more migrants being taken in being a necessity. He then talks about the environment being ruined, saying that the Lorax is a great way to understand the problem easily. He says that the only way to lessen the burden on the environment is for America to contain less people in general. In the next section, Gear, Patrick simply explained the type of weaponry and other items that he had bought in preparation for his attack. He explains why he chose the type of gun and ammunition that he did, with his reasons mainly revolving around overheating. With the heat-resistant gloves he also bought, it seems that he had a strange obsession when it came to the heat issues of firing a gun over all else. The only other issue he even mentions is bullet penetration. This brings us to a section oddly titled Reactions. In this section, he briefly explains that he feels Hispanic people would be more than willing to move back to their home countries if they were given economic incentive. However, he says that he and other people like him will give them another incentive to move home. That, he feels, will reduce the power of the Hispanic voting bloc. This seems to be his main reason for carrying out an attack. Finally, in the last section titled Personal Reasons and Thoughts, Patrick explains that he feels he has no future in his country. He fears that Hispanic people will overthrow Texas right underneath his nose. He says that he doesn't want to end up like Europe, who has no guns and can do nothing but sit by and watch. He says that his actions are without fault and done purely for preservation. He says that the government itself often kills people over much less.
This is pissing me off. They make an enemy out of some immigrant group. In this case, it's Hispanics. Like, oh, you're coming in and taking our country away and blah, blah, blah. What the fuck was this guy doing to contribute to America? It's always the bottom of the barrel humans of the world that have nothing going for them. You saw the LinkedIn that he made. He literally marketed himself as useless. What the fuck were you doing to contribute to this country? People immigrate here because they actually want to fucking work. When you go drive on the highway or in the city, 9 times out of 10, what's the color of these homeless people? These people begging for money that are young and they look able-bodied. They're fucking white. You fucking bitch. Oh my, I'm actually getting angry like thinking about this. Every time I see a somewhat young man begging for money on the side of the road, it's some like able-bodied, somewhat healthy-looking white guy. Meanwhile, you'll see fucking Hispanics over here selling stuff in carts, the stereotype cutting grass. Fuck this entitled piece of shit that wants to kill people because he doesn't want to do anything with his own life.
He says that the government itself often kills people over much less. He then goes on a rant about race mixing, saying that it's unnecessary and selfish. He says it ruins cultures and creates identity issues. He says that he feels he will inevitably be killed by either the police or by an invader, as he words it. He reminds his readers that it isn't cowardly to pick an attack on an area that he calls low-hanging fruit. He urges anyone like him to pick easier targets in order to carry out larger-scale violence. He predicts the immediate reaction, saying that they will likely call him a white supremacist, blame Trump, and move on. He says that, although his views predate Trump running for president, he feels that Trump's comments on Mexicans around the 2016 election would be blamed for his entire attack. Rather than trying to defend Trump, he seems almost angry that anyone else could get credit for the attack other than him. He ends the manifesto with, "I am honored to head the fight and reclaim my country from destruction." This brings us to a cloudy Friday night in August of 2019. 1 week after his 21st birthday, Patrick was sitting home alone, unemployed, living off the very welfare that he complained of other people taking.
Yeah, exactly, right there. They complain about fraud and abuse and people using up our tax dollars for the benefits, for the free social programs like food stamps. These people are the kind of people who actually fraudulently take up resources from our social programs, not because they're disabled or whatever. They are literally just lazy ass couch potatoes.
Living off the very welfare that he complained of other people taking. He figured that now was as good of a time as any. He loaded his rifle into the trunk of his car along with his 1,000 hollow point rounds. On top, he carefully placed his protective eye gear, his gloves, and some earmuffs. In the front seat, he carried the other item most important to him, his laptop. Around midnight, Patrick pulled out of the driveway at his grandparents' house in Allen, Texas. He, seemingly completely relaxed, made his way out of the city and onto the highway. He was on a mission, setting out on a 650-mile drive towards El Paso, Texas, wanting to get as near to the Mexican border as possible. Throughout the overnight journey, he stopped twice at different gas stations. Each time he would get an energy drink, refill his gas tank, and then sit in the car browsing 8chan on his laptop for a while. By around 8 a.m. the next morning, Patrick finally arrived in El Paso. He was pretty tired from missing a night of sleep, despite the constant monster intake. He realized that he was pretty hungry as well. He started driving around El Paso, seemingly with no particular goal in mind. He stopped at a pizzeria that he seems to have visited before, seemingly wanting to get one of his favorite orders one last time. Given that it was still earlier on in the morning, the place was closed, leading to Patrick simply driving off to Walmart. He pulled up to a Walmart near the Cielo Vista Mall on the east side of El Paso. It was now around 9 a.m. and roughly 3,000 people were shopping at the popular Walmart location. Given its close proximity to the border, many people from Mexico would come over to shop at the place. This got that Walmart location the nickname the Juarez Walmart, which very well could be what piqued Patrick's interest in the location in the first place. Wearing a very normal-looking black t-shirt and cargo pants, Patrick hopped out of his car and made his way into the store. Patrick wanted to use this time to get a feel of the current demographic within the store as well as learn the layout of the building. He walked around for about half an hour, simply scoping the place out. Feeling he had learned enough, he went back to his car. However, this is where he realized that he was indeed still hungry. Seemingly completely calm, the nerves that one would normally have at a time like this didn't seem to be bothering his stomach. He walked back into the store, bought an orange, and loitered around the grocery cart area while he ate it. All the while, the people he was planning to murder in broad daylight walked past him into the store, completely unaware of what he was planning. After he finished eating his orange, Patrick walked himself back out to his car. Here, he would wait around for about an hour, getting himself ready for what he was about to do. It was now around 10:15 a.m. Patrick was sitting in his car, checking out 8chan on his laptop. This time, it wasn't merely to browse. This time he started a thread of his own called It's Time. With some vague text that implied he was about to commit some sort of attack, he attached a PDF file. However, he made a mistake. Instead of attaching his manifesto like he had planned, he accidentally attached a disciplinary note from his college that he had gotten for showing up to class drunk. He quickly realized this mistake, made a reply, and uploaded the correct PDF file containing his manifesto. The manifesto was available to view on 8chan starting at 10:15 a.m.
So he doxed himself on accident. Fucking dumbass.
The manifesto was available to view on 8chan starting at 10:15 a.m. The original post only garnered a few responses. The first was an anonymous reply saying that 8chan is a board of peace and doesn't condone violence, a satirical jab at the people who use the phrase Islam is a religion of peace online. Another poster simply responded every Shabbat, implying that they wanted killings like this to happen every weekend if possible. Likely because he saw the replies drying up pretty quickly, Patrick put away his laptop at 10:37 a.m. He walked around to the trunk of his car and opened it. He quickly put on his safety glasses, heat-resistant gloves, and earmuffs. He then picked up his rifle, quickly pointed it towards some shoppers in the parking lot, and opened fire. Patrick immediately killed a woman pushing a shopping cart before setting his sights on a girls' soccer team running a fundraising event outside the store.
Jesus Christ. We don't see bodies here, but even just looking at these carts with the items inside, it breaks my heart because you can imagine the kind of people, that were obviously shopping here. You got some cereal, cleaning supplies. This is probably a mom with her kids or a mom shopping for her kids back at home. And those kids never got to see their mom again after this day.
The store manager had already caught sight of this happening and quickly ran back into the Walmart. He issued what he called a Code Brown, which was an active shooter alert. This made evacuation a priority within the store, and hiding for people who were in no position to evacuate. Many shoppers fled across the street to the mall, hid under tables, or behind shipping containers behind the building. A lot more, however, were simply stuck inside. After roughly a minute and a half of shooting in the parking lot, Patrick made his way into the store through the west entrance. He was seen on CCTV camera calmly walking through the front doors with his weapon. He began to fire towards a group of adults related to the fundraiser inside, injuring the soccer coach and killing his father. Then he proceeded calmly walking throughout the store, seemingly completely unbothered by what he was doing. An old man, likely hard of hearing, came out of the restroom, seemingly no idea that anything was happening. He walked right in front of Patrick. Seeing the gun, he made an attempt to flee, but Patrick simply shot him in the back of the head.
Dude, that's just like, he couldn't hear because he was old. Probably had a hearing aid. Oh my gosh.
Showing no emotion whatsoever, he stepped over his body to continue his attack. He headed towards a section of the store that held a few fast food stores along with a small branch of a local bank. While shoppers continued to scream and hide under tables and behind aisles, Patrick slowly walked past them. Whether he chose to ignore them, thought they were dead, or simply didn't see them is unclear. Continuing to fire, he moved towards the registers as a group of cashiers did their best to flee the scene. One of them tripped and fell to the ground. He raised his head to see if Patrick was still there. In that moment, Patrick shot him right through his head. He then moved his aim towards another woman hiding behind a counter and shot her as well. Patrick then moved towards the bank lobby, seeing a man hiding behind a column there. He shot the man point blank before moving his attention towards the other men in the area behind the counter, shooting them both. As he turned to head back to the store, a man named Andre Anchondo threw himself on top of his wife and baby to protect them. Patrick then shot him in his back, killing him. Continuing to walk...
Oh, dude, wait. I'm surprised he didn't kill the woman and the child. Wait, let me see.
That man named threw himself on top of his wife and baby to protect them. Patrick then shot him in his back, killing him.
I don't know if Dire Trip's just like withholding that information, but like, I don't know. It would not surprise me if Patrick still shot the child and the woman.
Continuing to walk east, Patrick was shooting at anyone who he could get a glimpse of hiding within the store. Eventually, he made his way over to the eastern doors of the building, opposite from where he started, and simply walked out of the door. Making his way back out to his car, Patrick shot towards a car in the parking lot, killing a married couple inside. It was now 10:42 a.m. In less than 10 minutes, he had shot and killed 22 people and injured 23 others. Before the police had even arrived, Patrick...
Wait, that's crazy. In 10 minutes, killed 22 people? Did I hear that right?
In minutes, he had shot and killed 22 people and injured 23 others.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, he wasn't messing around, dude.
Before the police had even arrived, Patrick hopped back into his car and drove away. Being very near the I-10 highway, he could have had an easy getaway. Shortly after, the first responders arrived on the scene. In addition to ambulances, the police department, the Texas Rangers, the FBI, and the ATF all arrived on scene. The shooting was revealed to be one of the deadliest in U.S. history. 20 victims died right there on the scene, and 3 more died over a period of time afterwards. The victims, including the injured, were a variety of ages, ranging anywhere from 2 years old to the elderly. While the majority were Hispanic, as Patrick intended, not all were. The injured victims were taken to 2 separate hospitals in the area. The victims were Andre Anchondo, age 23, Jordan Anchondo, age 24, Arturo Benavidez, 60, Leonardo Campos, 41, Angie Inglesby, 86, Maria Flores, 77, Raul Flores, 83.
Dude, a lot of these people are family. Notice how a lot of the last names are shared. That's even sadder. Like, people went shopping, obviously, as they do, as a family, as a couple. Yeah.
Jorge Calvillo Garcia, 61. Adolfo Cerros Hernandez, 68. Alexander Gerard Hoffman, 66. David Johnson, 63. Luis Alfonso Juarez, 90. Maria Eugenia Lagareta Rofe, 58. Maribel Loya, 56. Ivan Filiberto Manzano, 46. Elsa Mendoza Marquez, 57. Gloria Irma Marquez, 61. Margie Record, 63. Sarah Esther Regalado Muriel, 66. Javier Rodriguez, 15. Teresa Sanchez, 82. And Juan Velasquez, age 77. Another man, Guillermo Memo Garcia, a 36-year-old man, went on to die much later as a direct result of his injuries.
Hey, bro, please, everybody just put rest in peace, bro. A lot of you are pointing out the 15-year-old, but I mean, all of them, rest in peace.
They evacuated the nearby mall as well. They weren't sure if the killer had made his way across the street to continue his rampage there. Little did they know, Patrick was already long gone. However, his next move would prove to be one that nobody would expect. Rather than flee the scene and get back onto the highway, Patrick instead turned his car around and headed back towards the Walmart. On his way, he ended up at a busy intersection. Here, there were some police and ambulances behind him. He stopped his car, coming out with his hands up, and calmly told the police that he was the shooter. Nearby drivers were able to record him being arrested there on the spot and taken back to a police car. Patrick immediately waved his...
Whoa, wait, that was him? He actually looks pretty tall. I mean, compared to the police officer anyway.
Patrick immediately waived his Miranda rights and confessed everything to the police, saying that he had been targeting the Mexicans at the store. The police immediately came to suspect that Patrick hadn't planned on making it out of the attack alive. In fact, he had previously written that surviving and being captured would be a much worse fate. He said that he didn't want to survive and see his own family come to despise him, much less face the death penalty.
And by the way, that's exactly why I'm a big proponent for not giving somebody the death penalty. I'm a big, like, feel the consequences of your action kind of person. So, like, if you go on to do something like this piece of shit, I want you to feel shame. I want you to come face to face with the victims' families. I want you to come face to face with your own family so they can look at you in disappointment. No, yeah, I want you to feel all of that.
Shortly after, users on 8chan came to see that Patrick really was indeed planning to commit an attack when he made the previous post. Some commenters replied, "That's our guy," in support of what he did. While the moderators quickly scrubbed his post and manifesto, hoping to get rid of it before the site was under even more heat than it already was, other users quickly re-uploaded it. Others doubted that the manifesto was real, saying that it seemed so low effort that it was probably fake. Others, however, were seemingly impressed with his kill count, saying, "Is nobody going to check these incredible digits?"
These are all just edgelords, bro. Pathetic. It's so cringe. His kill count, like, wow. Like, talking about the loss of life like it's a video game or something.
Shortly after the attack, Cloudflare, an anti-DDoS attack application, terminated their security of 8chan, leaving the website very vulnerable to attacks. Shortly after, the provider that 8chan rented their servers from, Voxility, decided to discontinue their service as well.
Good.
The website was taken completely offline. However, it wasn't too long before the website was back, this time on a Russian hosting provider with a different name, 8kun.
Of course, the Russians. Okay, that sounded racist, but like, not Russian people, but like, I don't know if it's the Russian government, but bro, I swear to God, Russia's always just up to some weird, crazy shit.
It became clear fairly shortly after the attack that Patrick wasn't gaining the respect he wanted online. In fact, almost immediately, he was turned into a living meme. A few of his photos were traced and used for a new CHUDJACK meme, one that they would simply call the CHUDJACK. They chose a particularly goofy-looking photo that Patrick had inexplicably decided to use as his Facebook profile picture to do the job.
See, even Dire Trip was like, Patrick had inexplicably decided to use this as his profile picture. Yeah, I said the same thing. How does one take a selfie like this and go like, yep, that's the one. That's my profile picture right there. That's what I'm gonna present to the world. This guy literally had like a self-degradation kink or something. I don't know.
Sometimes called the /poll face, with /poll being the political board of 4chan, the CHUDJACK meme was used to mock people similar to him. In fact, the meme is still widely used to this day to mock users who share Patrick's views. The day after the attack, Patrick's grandparents' home was being raided. Given that it was his last known address, there was no doubt it was coming. Still, Patrick's grandfather got into an altercation with an FBI agent that showed up at his door, telling him to get the hell out. The grandparents, both in their mid-70s, refused to talk to the media initially. However, the next day, they decided to make a brief statement, saying that they were devastated and praying for the victims. 2 days after the shooting, an employee from Walmart's corporate side sent out a memorandum to Walmart's whole e-commerce division, urging them to strike to force the company to stop selling guns. Walmart also sent a memo out to all of its stores, ordering them to remove any signs or posters that contained either violent themes or depictions of aggressive behavior. They also put together a fund of $400,000 to help the victims.
That's a pretty nice response from Walmart. Walmart sold guns? No, yeah, they used to. Dude, I remember like literally back in 2020 or something, I have an old video of me hanging out with my friends. We went to Walmart, and in the video, you can see like a big case like this with a bunch of guns, exactly like this. I don't know if they still sell guns at some locations, but no, yeah, I don't see guns anymore. My Walmart still sells guns. No, yeah, I think some specific ones still do, but I think they reduced the amount.
The next month, the company did announce that it would stop selling ammunition for handguns and rifles in their stores in the US, as well as not allowing any more open carrying within the stores. Donald Trump spoke out about the attack as well, which immediately resulted in a lot of controversy. He condemned the attack as being hateful and cowardly, asking that all flags be flown at half-mast. In a speech, he said, "In one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy. These sinister ideologies must be defeated. Hate has no place in America." However, much like Patrick anticipated in his manifesto, this completely backfired on him. Hashtags like white supremacist in chief hit #1 on the trending section of Twitter as people chastised him for his past comments on immigration. He made a lot more people angry for a very different reason as well, this being by blaming the attack partially on violent video games. After both he and the Texas Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, said that games were at least partly to blame for the incident, a lot of users online exploded.
I hate when they do that too. Even though like I'm for gun control and shit, but like blaming video games? No. Like no, dude.
The comments about video games were indeed strange, as Patrick barely seemed to have mentioned them in the past. Several funeral homes, both in El Paso and across the border in Juarez, announced that they would be providing funeral expenses for free to show solidarity. A vigil was organized in Juarez as well, with quite a few people turning out to show their respects. Some of the funerals of the victims were also open for the public, allowing anyone who wanted to attend. While most of the killers in these stories would no longer be around to face trial by this point, Patrick was one of the rare special cases in which some form of justice could be attempted. He was indicted on capital murder charges on September 12, 2019. Arraignment was then held on October 10th. This is where he surprised the public by pleading not guilty to the murder charges despite the mountain of evidence against him and his own previous confession. Another murder charge was added to the pile soon after his final victim passed away in the hospital after 9 months of clinging to life. Due to the sheer scale of the case and the amount of evidence at hand, along with COVID lockdowns starting shortly after the case took place, the trial was all set to be delayed numerous times. However, it was during one of these delays that the El Paso district attorney expressed his interest in pursuing the death penalty, the very same death penalty that Patrick feared above all else. While Patrick was being charged on the state level, he was simultaneously being charged on the federal level as well. On February 6th of 2020, Patrick was hit with a whopping 90 federal charges, 22 counts of committing a hate crime resulting in death, 22 counts of using a firearm to commit murder.
God damn. No, that's bad, bro. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. We're getting to the sentencing now, but like, Jesus Christ, this front shot of him is just, he's for real CHUDJACK. Oh my God.
22 counts of using a firearm to commit murder, 23 counts of a hate crime involving an attempt to kill, and 23 counts of using a firearm during a crime. Patrick waived his federal bond hearing a few days later on the 12th. Once again, in July, he pled not guilty to all the federal charges as well. Later that July, it was announced that the defense was granted more time in order to investigate what has only been called a number of red flag mitigation themes. Patrick's defense said that he had been suffering from a number of both neurological and development issues throughout his life, adding that he was on an antipsychotic medication since his arrest, saying that he was likely in such a psychotic state during the attack.
Guys, my schizophrenia made me hate Mexicans and go shoot and kill 22 of them. Yeah, don't you hate when your schizophrenia makes you do that?
Throughout this time, the federal level prosecutors were asked to determine whether or not they would go for the death sentence as well. While the trial was slowly moving forward, the El Paso Healing Garden at Escalade Park in Mission Valley was dedicated to the victims in August of 2021. By that December, it was also designated as a national memorial. The defense and the prosecutors continued to argue on a trial date. While the defense was shooting for a date of March 2025 or even later, the prosecution would rather get it over with in June of 2023. The defense argued that this wasn't nearly enough time to comb through the 1.76 million files and 763 gigabytes of video related to the case.
Jesus.
Things were made even more complicated when the defense expressed their interest in an insanity plea. Ultimately, the federal side decided not to pursue the death sentence in the case, although the state side was still very much interested. On February 8th of 2023, Patrick finally pled guilty to the 90 federal murder and hate crime charges. Then it came time to be sentenced. Before his sentencing, he was asked if he felt any remorse. He gave a sad expression before silently nodding in response.
Look at this fucking face. If this is the face that he had on when he nodded saying that he was regretful, he was not. He does not care.
On July 7th of 2023, he was sentenced to serve 90 consecutive life sentences. Given that the federal prison system doesn't have any parole, Patrick is going to, at least, spend the rest of his life in prison. Given that
90 life sentences, bro. That's like eternity and a half.
The death sentence was still on the table for the state charges, Patrick's defense said, "Today's federal sentencing ensures that Patrick will leave prison in a coffin. The only question will be whether it's on God's time or on man's time. Various experts on terrorism have spoken out on the case, citing the Great Replacement theory as seemingly being the motivating factor.
Yep, I can agree with that. I can agree with that assumption that the Great Replacement theory played a role in his ideology. We saw this in the previous video too with that furry case before he killed a bunch of black people. It's always about the Great Replacement theory, about white people being replaced.
Citing the Great Replacement theory as seemingly being the motivating factor, as it was in other similar cases. This attack was linked to both the Christchurch mosque shootings and the Poway synagogue shooting, given the similarities between the perpetrators and their manifestos. The chief executive of the Anti-Defamation League said that the attack indicated the growing threat of white supremacy. The NATO Secretary General, Jens Stoltenberg, asked various countries to work together to stop these lone wolf attackers who keep finding inspiration in each other. Many online writers have blamed technology for the rise in these crimes, given that it is thanks to the internet that they're able to find each other, share ideas, foster communities, and seek validation in ways that they would never be able to find in regular society. Patrick himself has gone on to inspire others within that same circle already, one notable example being Samantha Ruppnow. Patrick now mainly lives on as the inspiration behind—
Wait, I want to look up that girl, Samantha. What's her name? Do you guys know who this is? Femcel Trans MAGA. Maybe she can be the next video that we watch.
One notable example being Samantha Ruppnow. Patrick now mainly lives on as the inspiration behind the CHUDJACK meme, mainly being ridiculed in contrast to the widespread respect he thought he would receive. As of the writing of this video, Patrick is still waiting on his state-level murder trial. The results of this trial will decide whether or not he lives or dies once and for all. Now, in prison, he's finally able to understand how it feels to have his death date completely determined by the will of another, completely out of his own control.
I mean, yeah, that's the end of the video. I feel like you guys know where I stand on a lot of these issues, especially social issues. I said all of my thoughts throughout this video very passionately. You guys saw how angry I got halfway through this video, calling out how these people hate immigrants, even though they themselves are the biggest abusers of the social system here in America. They're able-bodied. They don't go and do work themselves to earn a living, to actually contribute to America. Then they hate on people that come to America that benefits America even more. They contribute to America. Justice was served, but man, for cases like this, I know I said I'm for the shooter remaining alive and facing ridicule, facing shame from their family, and I'm not for the death penalty because it's just too easy. I still think some form of capital punishment should be levied. Some kind of punishment, like capital punishment in front of everybody, in front of the world, that sends a message like, hey, you person watching this right now, if you think about doing anything similar to this guy, this is what waits for you. We're gonna hang you by the dick with a barbed wire, and then after that, you're going to jail for life. Something like that. I don't know. You should fear doing this. You should fear doing this because you're gonna get caught. Rest in peace to all of the victims. Thank you, YouTube, for watching this video with me. Very sad, tragic stuff again. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.